Good morning. Welcome to Peace United Church of Christ, where no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. This Sunday, we continue our worship series called Gifts of the Dark Wood, and we are going to be talking about the gift of emptiness.
Our first reading today is taken from the book of Psalms, the 22nd chapter. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me? From the words of my groaning. Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but find no rest. Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel. In you our ancestors trusted. They trusted, and you delivered them. To you they cried and were saved. In you they trusted and were not put to shame. But I am a worm and not human, scorned by others and despised by the people. All who see me mock at me. They make mouths at me, they shake their heads. Commit your cause to the Lord. Let God deliver. Let God rescue the one in whom God delights. Yet, it was you who took me from the womb. You kept me safe on my mother's breast. On you I was cast from my birth. And since my mother bore me, you have been my God. Do not be far from me, for trouble is near and there is no one to help. Our second reading is part of our Lenten story. It's from Mark 15. Then they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of a skull. And they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. And they crucified him and divided his clothes among them, casting lots to decide what each should take. It was 9:00 in the morning when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." And with him they crucified two bandits, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, you who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself and come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests, along with the scribes, were also mocking him among themselves and saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now so that we may see and believe." Those who were crucified with him also taunted him. When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. At 3:00, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" For the wisdom contained in these holy words, we give thanks. Amen.
Have compassion for everyone you meet, even if they don't want it. What seems conceit, bad manners, or cynicism is always a sign of things no ears have heard, no eyes have seen. You don't know what wars are going on down where the spirit meets the bone. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Empty space. Our bodies are 99% of our bodies are empty space, to be precise. I'm no scientist, and I have no desire to be one. But I was fascinated to learn this fact. My body is 99% empty space. Let's see if I can explain it. We are made up of atoms, and atoms are made up of a nucleus with electrons racing around the nucleus. So what, you say? Well, let me put this fact into some perspective. If you pretended a grape was the nucleus of the atom and put it in the middle of a football field, the area making up the rest of the atom, the mostly empty space in which the electrons spin around, would fill that field. That's a lot of empty space. To put it another way, if you put the dense matter of all humanity together, it would be the size of a sugar cube. A very, very heavy sugar cube. Empty space. We are mostly empty space. And still, we move around. We suffer when we bump into the corner of the coffee table, or burn ourselves when we forget the pot handle is hot and grab it. We feel the softness of my puppy's fur, the rough edges of rock, and the warm sun on our face. Our brains can calculate a generous tip, imagine what it might be like to win the Super Bowl, and our bodies enthusiastically celebrate with the team that actually won the Super Bowl. Our bodies declare the gift of emptiness just by being our bodies. For the poet of Psalm 22 and for Jesus on the cross, both stories, I hope you noticed, are hauntingly similar. We are witness to an emptiness that seems far from comforting. It is an emptiness caused by despair, an emptiness where hopes and dreams are diminished to nothing. And we ask the question, how can this emptiness be a gift? She had made it. By all societal standards, Joanna had made it. She was making a 7-figure income. She was the youngest person to become partner in her firm. Her corner office was on the top floor of one of the tallest buildings in the downtown area. Her closet was full of expensive clothing and a multitude of shoes. She was somebody. She had all the stuff and status to prove it. The people in the small farming community she grew up in seemed far away along with their common expectations and conventional thinking. And yet Joanna was restless. Her anxiety was off the charts. She had been drinking too much, a failed effort to calm her nerves and even out the tension. One night, it was all she could do to get into her condo without falling apart. She looked around. It was all there, the lovely furniture, the state-of-the-art appliances, a magnificent view of the river, and she saw the wonder of none of it. She sat on her couch with the pretty throws she found in the art district at a little boutique that promised it was one of a kind, and all she could think was that it was not keeping her warm. The tears finally came. Tears unlike the sweet tears on the newest rom-com. They came in a flood. Where was the joy? Why was she so unhappy? What had happened to her friends? Who was she? She felt so alone, so empty. Joanna cried until there were no tears left. Something needed to shift in her life. She understood that. Now, things didn't change for Joanna overnight. She went to work the next day in her corner office on the top floor of the tallest building in the downtown area. She wore her expensive suit and her stylish shoes and did her important job. Over time, though, Over time, her co-workers noticed subtle changes and then not so subtle changes. And then one day, Joanna handed in her 2 weeks' notice. It turns out that when Joanna was asking herself the hard questions the night she fell apart, the night she felt completely empty, she found answers that were there all along, pushed down and undetected. Space was created for her to imagine what could be in her life. She became clear that none of what she had worked so hard for, because that's what she thought she should do, none of it, not the job which she liked but was not passionate about, not the office or the clothes or the furniture or that darn throw that was unique and beautiful but did not keep her warm, none of it made her happy. None of it filled her with joy, so Joanna walked away. And I'll let you finish the story, because it's not just Joanna's story. All of us at some time or other in our life, all of us in some kind of way have had the Joanna moment, big or small. We've all experienced a moment of complete despair, the moment when we cry out, my God, why have you forsaken me? We've been caught up in the need for approval, been bent over by the societal pressure to succeed, clung to tradition that often limits or creates barriers to participation, filled our spaces with the clutter of life, all for what? And in that moment, laying ourselves bare, in that moment of complete emptiness, room is made for something else, for imagining, for possibility, for our passion to live again. For the poet, room was made to remember a faithful God who delivered and saved their ancestors, and the assurance that it would happen for them too. If in you our ancestors trusted, they trusted and you delivered them, the psalmist remembers. To you they cried and were saved. In you they trusted and were not put to shame. It was you who took me from the womb. You kept me safe on my mother's breast. On you I was cast from my birth. And since my mother bore me, you have been my God. For Jesus, space was opened up to hold close his task to teach and care for the beloved and precious children of God to whom he had come, to remind them of God's presence among and within them, the ones he had come to challenge to believe another way was possible to be in the world, a way where people had enough to thrive. The Spirit of the Holy One is upon me, Jesus proclaimed, because God has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. God has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. It gave Jesus the power to live on again in the hearts and minds of people with a clear message long after he was taken down from the tree and buried in a tomb. This is the message: go into all the world and proclaim the good news to the whole creation. We are 99% empty space. We are made to function and thrive and dream and hope inside bodies that contain almost all empty space. It is a miracle that we walk around, sing, play, cry, have conversations, and build relationships. When the prophet Hosea proclaimed in the 11th chapter that God could not, in the end, turn away from a very disappointing people, because in fact God lived within each of them. God lived within each of them. I wonder what Hosea was thinking about. I wonder if God is within us too, in that empty space, waiting for us. I wonder if God is waiting for us to get rid of the clutter so we can realize the gift of emptiness, where possibility and passion and imagination thrive, where the Spirit has movement and room to move, where God abides. Wouldn't that just be something? Now, I'm going to go get my guitar and sing a song written by Carrie Newcomer and Parker Palmer. Now that's a duet, a duo right there. It's called Abide. I will bring a cup of water. Here's the best that I can offer. In the dusk of coming night, there is evidence of light. With the pattering of rain, let us bow as if in grace. Consider all the ways we heal and how a heart can break. Oh, abide with me, where it's breathless and it's empty. Yes, abide with me, and we'll pass the evening gently. Stay away with me, and we'll listen more intently to something wordless and remaining, sure and ever-changing in the quietness of now. Let us ponder the unknown, what is hidden, what is home, and finally learn to travel at the speed of our own souls. There is a living water, a spirit cutting through, always changing, always making all things new. Oh, abide with me, where it's breathless and it's empty. Yes, abide with me, and we'll pass the evening gently. Stay away with me, and we'll listen more intently to something wordless and remaining, sure and ever-changing in the quietness of now. There are things I cannot prove, and still somehow I know it's like a message in a bottle that some unseen hand has thrown. You don't have to be afraid, you don't have to be alone. I don't know